Welcome back to another session here with yours truly. In this case, we're going to talk about passive verb forms. We're going to explain them and we're going to try and keep this video a little bit on the shorter side. Remember, we already saw this in class. We saw passive voice. So hopefully this is going to help you understand if you are still struggling to grasp the topic. Okay, so here we go. Let's begin. So to begin with, we want to establish an example. So right here we have a sentence, right? So this sentence, Shang Yimin created TikTok, is what we call an active sentence. Okay. So imagine that we have a friend that asks us something like this. Tell me more about the creation. So they want us to focus on the creation, in this case TikTok, and not so much on the creator. So we would say something like this. TikTok was created in 2016. So this right here is what we want. TikTok was created in 2016. This is how we see passive voice. Okay. So we're going to go through the ins and outs, how to differentiate between active and passive voice. So we're going to start first with the first example we had, which was Shang Yimin created TikTok. So here is the definition from the book. In an active sentence, we focus on who or what did something. So again, this is active voice, and in this case, we're focusing on the inventor. All right. Now, to contrast, we have passive voice. So we have this other example that we already showed, which says TikTok was created in 2016. So in passive sentence, the focus is on what happened to someone or something. So in this case, this is passive voice, and here we're focusing on the invention, not so much on the inventor for this particular example. So this is basically the information that was from your book. Now let's bring another definition, a definition that I had prior to us using the book. So when do we use passive verb forms? So the passive voice is used to show interest in the person or object that experiences an action rather than the person or object that performs the action. So this can be one or two things. It can be because it's not important who did the action, or we might just not know who did the action. Okay, one of those two. Let's move on. Here are some examples. We have the passive voice is used frequently. We have the house was built in 1654, and we have the road is being repaired. So let's analyze a little bit the last example that we have there. The road is being repaired. Now here, maybe it's not important who's repairing the road. Obviously, it's probably city workers. But the fact is that we want people to understand that the road is being repaired. The road is closed. They cannot use the road, right? So that is the focus of the sentence. Obviously, it's being repaired by people, right? But we want people to understand that the main focus is going to be that it is closed, that it's being repaired. All right, let's move on to how it works. First, we establish a little bit of a structure here. So we're going to need the verb to be conjugated in whatever appropriate form it needs to be in. And then we're going to need the verb in past participle. Okay, so these two things. Now, let's see an active sentence first. We have our example here, Tanjiro ate our pizza. So from this sentence, if we wanted to change it into passive, it would look something like this. Our pizza was eaten by Tanjiro. By Tanjiro is in parentheses because it is optional. You do not necessarily need it there. It is optional. Now let's try and analyze a little bit more here, right? So we have people don't follow the law. I want you to focus on what's in bold, right? Don't follow. What tense is that? Take a time to look at it, analyze it. So if you already thought about it and you said, well, this is clearly present simple, you are correct. So in that case, the verb to be, its appropriate form is going to be present simple. So what is the present simple form of the verb to be? Is. And since we have a negative sentence, we're going to be using isn't. So sentence would look something like the law isn't followed by people. Now, I mentioned here the tense, right? But there's something else that has been moving. I'm pretty sure you guys already understood it, pretty much already located what is changing in the sentence, right? Besides adding the verb to be that we already talked about, right? And the verb in past participle. We're gonna analyze this sentence here. We have I call weird people every day. This is the sentence. So in this sentence, what is I? So I here is the subject, right? So weird people. What is weird people? What part of the sentence is this? Or what do we call this in this sentence? So it is part of the complement. And in this case, it is what receives the action, right? So we call this the object. So if you've already noticed from the previous examples, we need to identify the object of the sentence, and we're going to change it and turn that into our new subject. Because remember, we don't care who does the action, we care about who receives the action, okay? So we have a sentence here that is in passive. When we see weird people, this is our new subject. So we have weird people are called every day. Now, by Inosuke, which is our character here on the screen, this is what's called an agent. Okay? This can be added or you can remove it, like we already established. Either sometimes we might not know or we might not care to mention who or what did the action. But just to recap really quick, you identify the object, and that is what you're going to change it to subject. This is if you're changing active sentences into passive sentences. So maybe at the beginning, this is going to be the best way that you guys can use passive voice, which is thinking about an idea in active, like you normally would, and then changing it into passive. You can also just begin making sentences in passive from the get-go. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the main information that you need to be a pro at active and passive. So here we have this chart that I made. Obviously we have more tenses. You have 12 tenses, but in this case for us, we're going to be focusing on these five. You've already seen these five throughout your academics tenure here with us at the school. But nonetheless, here they are, so you guys can see them. We want to notice the message that is over here, the note, right? So we're only conjugating the verb to be. And if you notice, the active and the passive are in the same text. Okay. Let me move something here on my screen because I can't see that. Okay, here we go. So we have the first example. Everyone hates our boss. Who hates our boss? Everyone. So that is the subject. That's who's doing the action. We don't care about that. Remember, we want to identify the object. Who is receiving the hate? Who is being hated? Our boss, right? So this is the object. So in a passive sentence, this is going to pass to be our subject. So we have our boss, and then because hates is present simple, like you can already see over here, the verb to be is going to be in its present simple form. We have is. And then per the structure, it said that we needed to use the verb in past participle. What verb are we talking about? Well, the main verb in the sentence, which was hate. So we pass hate into hated because it's a regular verb. And then by everyone, either you can add it or you can remove it. It's completely optional, up to you. All right, so this would be an example of present simple. We also have past simple over here. So we have the neighbor's dogs destroyed my football. So destroyed, or if you follow the structure, right, you have a subject, you have your verb in past simple, and then you have your complement. This is a past simple sentence, right? So you want to identify the object. What did they destroy? Well, my football. So this is going to be my new subject, my football. And then since destroyed is past simple, right? This whole sentence is past simple. What is the past form of the verb to be? Well, we have was or were. Which one matches my football? Well, in this case, was. Now we're going to grab the verb, which is destroyed, and put it in past participle. Since it's regular, you just leave it as is, right? Because it already has the ed. My football was destroyed. And you're going to do exactly the same thing with all of them. Okay, this applies to any tense. Again, we only have 5 here, but this would work with future, this would work with any perfect continuous, they work in the same way. The only thing you're conjugating into the tense that you have right here is the verb to be. So as you can see, have seen passes to be has been, right? So we have is walking, well, is being, and then you add the verb in past participle. Walking is walked. You have the house cleaner was cleaning, so was cleaning, was being, and then the main verb, which was cleaning, passes to be cleaned. Okay. So let me move in for a closer look, just so you can see everything how it functions. But if you want to pause it and you want to like take a screenshot or whatever, you can. But this is basically what we just explained, right? Present stays in present, is, then the verb in past participle. So this is really simple as long as you can identify the tense. So if you see a sentence like many people have seen my new TikTok and you can identify and know that this is present perfect because it has the subject, it has a have or has as our main auxiliary, and then it has the verb in past participle with a complement, then you're gonna this is gonna be extremely simple for you if you can identify the tenses. If you can't, then you will struggle a little bit. It depends how fast you can pick up on certain things. So in on the same area where you can find this video on Blackboard, you're gonna find a list of the different structures. Okay, so I'm gonna leave a list of present simple, past continuous, and present perfect, and all those structures and affirmatives and negatives, so they can help you out in identifying what tense it is. Once you know, then you just have to conjugate the verb to be into that particular tense, as you can see here in this one, right? So, is walking, is being, right? And then we have the was cleaning, was being, right? So again, the information is gonna be in an image, and I will add it here on Blackboard so you can find it and you can download it. Make sure you use it if you have a hard time identifying. This is gonna greatly help you for the exam. Hopefully, ace the test as we all want, right? All right. So this is basically a structure. We've been talking about like changing actives to passives, but what happens if you just want to start with a passive sentence without having to change an active into passive? Well, this would be a structure, right? So you would start with your subject, your verb to be in whatever tense you want to use, the past participle of the verb, and then finally a complement. So you can have, or you can see here the five structures that will be in the exam. Again, you can copy this, you can try and memorize this. This is going to help you out for the project as well. But yeah, just make sure that you notice that the only thing that we're conjugating here is the verb to be. So we have is, then we have was, has been, is being, was being. So the only thing that is changing is the verb to be. As you can see here, the main verb is always past participle, cleaned, and so on. It's the same verb, it's the same sentence for for all the examples, right? So you guys can see how it changes, right? The only thing that really changes is the verb to be. In this case, we changed the complement so it would match the sentence in the context, right? But yeah. Okay. How do negatives work? Negatives work in the exact same way. So if you have was, wasn't, if you have were, weren't, or aren't, is, isn't, have, haven't, and has, hasn't. So whatever tense you're using, the negative is going to be exactly the same negative that you would use for the appropriate tense. So present simple, same thing, and so on, right? For the verb to be, obviously. This is basically everything that we just saw. So we have just to summarize everything, the main structure we were talking about is that you're going to have the verb to be in whatever form you need it to be. You are going to have the verb and past participle right after that. You guys need to really study irregular verbs and the past participle form if you are lacking in that department. If you do not know a verb and you're like on the exam, just assume it's regular. Just put ed at the end, right? Passive verbs have the same, or yeah, passive verb tenses have the same tense as the original active sentence. This is if you're changing an active into passive. you have to identify whatever tense the original sentence is, and that same tense is going to be carried on to the passive tense, or the passive sentence in this case. And like we already established, the only thing that you will be conjugating is the verb to be, because the main verb is always going to be in past participle. So you just lock in past participle and you just keep doing that for all of the verbs. Okay. We have a final image here. I'll go really quick through this. We did explain this in class, but either way. So we had our friend here that needed to make 200 tacos for a very big party. It was a grad party. And he says, I haven't made the tacos. So he has a very good friend that has to deliver the news when their friend Cocho went to find the tacos. Like she's gonna be like, hey, where are the tacos, right? So her friend Tanjiro, who is Zenitsu's original friend, he is not gonna snitch. He's just gonna pass on information so she knows the tacos are not made, right? But she's not saying who didn't make it. So he just says no one made them, but I don't know who was in charge. So this way, nobody knows it was Zenitsu's fault, right? He's a very good friend. He's covering for his friend. Now, Kocho is gonna have to break the news to Inosuke because it's his party, it's his grad party. So when he asks, "Hey, where are my tacos?" How do you think Kocho is gonna respond? So we have to remember the original sentence was, "I haven't made the tacos." Let me no, I can't really write it here, but yeah, write it down or just think about it. I haven't made the tacos. What tense is that? We have to first identify it. The tense is present perfect, right? And then what is the object? I haven't made the tacos. What haven't you made? The tacos. So that is the object, right? So we want to start with the tacos. The tacos, and then we said present perfect. We have to think has or have, right? Since it's the tacos, it's a plural, we want to go with have. The tacos, it was negative, haven't. And then we need the verb to be in past participle because it's present perfect. The tacos haven't been. And then we need the main verb, which was made in past participle. So the tacos haven't been made. And that is what she's going to answer. Right? So if you thought about that before I said the answer, good on you. Perfect. If not, then again, we just need to practice. We will still do a lot more practice in class, at least a couple more activities. If you do have more questions, let me know. Ask me appropriately. Ask a classmate. Ask somebody. We're gonna have a quiz too, so hopefully those are gonna help you prepare for the exam and understand the topic to the fullest. It is not complicated. It might be a little bit, let's say, it has a lot of moving parts that might confuse people, especially since we're dealing with 5 different tenses. So sometimes that's not the easiest. Let's say. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, like I mentioned, uh, look for me. Let me know. Send me a message or something. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.